happen. And I want you to benefit from something that happened this past week, or about a week and a half ago. There is a new level of computing that is sort of the holy grail that everybody is theorized about, and for 20 years we've been trying to perfect, and it's called quantum computing. And 10 days ago, on the NASA website, a big announcement was posted about Google reaching this point and figuring out a chip that is so fast, it is just going to change Moore's law. So I'm not talking about some futuristic thing. I'm talking about something that's just happened. It doesn't mean this Christmas or this holiday we're going to have computers on sale, but it means that they figured this out. And so the equation was solved in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It would have taken the fastest computer on the planet 10,000 years to crack. So it is a quantum leap, and it has just happened. Again, it's not going to be commercialized tomorrow, but boy, are they close to something revolutionary. And so I want you just to file this away because it is so profound. They feel like at least we're going to double Moore's law. So that means in less than a year, the computer power doubles. So just think about that. It's mind-boggling. So file that away, because that's one thing that's going to really affect business-to-business marketing, and I'm going to share with you what we think it's going to be. The second is the talent, and the shift to sort of this new talent and how they see relationships. Millennials are going to be half the workforce in the next 6 years. And now you guys are millennial experts, right, from this morning. So I want you to think they're different than us boomers. They're different than the Gen Xers. And I think that because of the period effect and the technology, I think the Gen Zs will probably be more like millennials and they'll be like boomers, right? So how will tech and talent shape the future of B2B marketing? Number one, you guys, the leaders in B2B marketing, are going to shift from managing employees in your department, in your company, to talent managers. You're going to be managing talent. And what a great case study we just heard about how that company transformed itself from just managing talent and thinking about having to manage talent that's not at headquarters because they can be closer to the customer. So we learned a lot this morning. We learned about how finicky these people are, the millennials, and how much they're going to move around and how many jobs they're going to have and how they're less loyal, how they're not tied to place, more and more freelancing going on, the gig economy happening, and the fact that half of our workforce is going to be distributed. So think about that. No one raised their hand when you said you had all the talent you needed. So you got to rethink talent. You got to start managing talent beyond your walls, beyond being an FTE person, beyond saying we're trying to hire a new person to come aboard our staff. That's still going to go on, but with HR, you've got to start teaming up and thinking differently about how do I manage a pool of workforce. I just gave you this morning the keys to building a better culture so you get your fair share of people in your department that you can say are full-time. That's really important. So take that list home and work on it. But externally, you got to start embracing freelance and use a talent management philosophy where it's not just, oh my God, I got to find some extra work, but really managing that talent pool as almost part of your own. So having a cadre, a group of freelancers that really get your culture and actually meet some of your people, and then really tapping into all of these latest tools, software tools. This is just a couple of them. Trello lets you work more collaboratively and get more done, and it's a way to just organize your internal and external teams. Resource Guru allows you for better scheduling around trying to make up some form internally. Toggle is a really great timesheet that works internal and external. There are about a dozen of these really great tools, but you're going to have to use them more and more and more and really be able to figure out, how do I have this seamless operation? How do I become a talent manager and not an FTE employee manager? So that's number one change I see in the future. B2B marketing is going to shift from general account relationships to technical support relationships. I think the shift has been going on. We get to do a ton of studies for people. My firm's done 15,000 marketing research studies and strategic plans. We've been around for 55 years. I've owned the company for about 20. And it's fascinating, everything we get brought into. In some cases, in this one, we were asked to really explore the changing relationships between clients, B2B clients, and customer reps. And so we did a lot of one-on-one interviews. And just some kind of real top-line findings. The customer need out there is to have less social time with their rep and more technical time. And so here's a quote from a B2B customer. Our supplier rep has always been the one that wines and dines us to try to build a closer relationship with us. That's been the norm forever, dinners and all sorts of trips and socializing. But that's the past. I don't think that's the future. And in fact, today, they say the benefit of maintaining our relationships with reps is becoming more about having a backup. When you have technical questions or issues, we don't need them for selecting products. A lot of the infrastructure you have in your, even in your website, you allow people to order online and they know the products you have. So what they need is not to help figure out what products to select and buy or services, but really, they really are looking for you to be there when they really need you for that technical information. And that's what we heard. We now do most of our product selection recommendations without the reps who call us, but we still reach out to them when we need immediate information. Like when I'm driving to a meeting and I need to know something. Like, you know, so that's like I need them 24/7 when I need them, but I don't need them all the time to be in my office with donuts. The pace of work is just so fast. So it's not that they don't need the human action, they just need it in a different way. So we had a lot of fun talking about this morning, right? And you ought to go back and think about some of your friends and plug in what they do for a living. Will robots take my job? So I just went ahead and plugged in sales representatives, wholesale and manufacturing, except technical. So these are like general sales reps, 85% chance of elimination because of the coming disintermediation of technology. And then if you plug in sales reps, wholesale and manufacturing with technical, much less chance of disintermediation, right? Because the technical ability, you're just going to have to need that. You can't answer everything on the website. So increase your investment in online information and transaction platforms, but perfect your high-touch 365, 24/7 technical support. That it's really going to be a blend of that really fun guy to go duck hunting with that drops the bottle of wine off with that technical expertise and knowledge. So one more thing to struggle to try to find in people in qualified workforce. But I want to be really clear about this because a lot of people are turning to chat bots that can answer questions. You guys use some of those on your websites, and that's fine. I think that serves a purpose, but don't take the human touch out of this. You know, business to business selling is many, many touches. It's not usually just one person that makes the decision. You guys know this more than I did. It's complicated, much more complicated than consumer marketing. So in this case, you got to have the person in the equation that represents you, but it's just going to become a much more and more charming person with technical expertise. And so I want you just to think about that. But I want you to think for a second now about this quantum computing and artificial intelligence. And let's really look far ahead, right? I want to look 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead about B2B marketing and really the category. We think the future marketing efforts are going to revolve around the power of artificial intelligent buying assistants, okay? You guys are all going to help me here. So what are you talking about, John? That's what I'm talking about. How many of you guys have one of these Alexas? You see a show of hands. Okay, it's pretty good. So that's like about 50%, maybe 40% of you guys have one. We don't have not one, we have like 2 of these things. And my wife and I argue about it all the time because I don't want her to know, Alexa, all the stuff that I do and say. She thinks it's just so hyper convenient. So we're debating this constantly. And I said, you keep your one Alexa in the she shed where you have your antique business, and I'll keep the other one in my workshop where I'm rarely, and I can just ask it to play music. Because I know there's a website my son taught me about where you can go and see every word that Alexa records on you. And I'm telling you this, it's more than you think. It's more than you think. And they will tell you at Google and Amazon, oh, there's just a few mistakes, but we're experimenting. It's spooky, guys. It's spooky. So what do we use it for? Well, right now, we'll set a timer. Hey, and this is what I use it for all the time. Hey, Alexa, you mind playing a song for me? Or what's the headline? Or control the smart lighting in the house. Or, hey, Alexa, add this to the list. I want to, I've got to buy some more Charmin or whatever. And so they're real practical things. So a lot of us are thinking about, what does this really mean going forward? And what does this really mean when you marry it to quantum computing and 5G capacity? Well, this is the sales, this is digital assistance, and worldwide, it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing because we love convenience, and it is damn convenient. But also, if you think about millennials, they have given up their information for convenience since day one. They don't really care. They don't have that same feeling that I do, where I don't want people to know about me. I don't have a Facebook page. I really don't love LinkedIn. But I just don't want people to know what I'm doing on the weekends. I don't want them to know my fabulous lifestyle. It's my lifestyle, right? So quantum computing, married, where this takes artificial intelligence, this is what we think is going to happen. Artificial intelligence assistant platforms are going to transform marketing as the value of data and predictability soar. So let me explain this. And it's going to be clunky because I'm going to make this up as I go. But if you are a really incredible Alexa user, and you're somebody like me that flies around the country and gives speeches and then goes back home and manages a research company, complicated life, moving really fast, booking a lot of airplane tickets, trying to decide how to squeeze in like a little bit of fly fishing if I happen to be speaking in Denver. Well, in the future, my Alexa, if I really loved her and really asked her to really help me, she's going to be able, with artificial intelligence, to be constantly on, not just when I'm there saying turn on the lights, but constantly searching the internet for things that could be helpful to me. So I'll come back home, or maybe even get an email from her when I'm getting on a plane flight, and she'll say, hey, your next connection, I realize that flight is delayed and it looks like it's going to be hard for you to make that. So I've already rebooked you. And in fact, if you don't make that, I've gotten in touch with your friend who lives in Charlotte that likes to fish, and he's on standby that you might miss your connection or might come by. And then when I get home, Alexa says, hey, by the way, I just saved you $50 because you left the air conditioning on. And I turned it down knowing that your trip had you out for 3 days. And I notified the grocery store that in the refrigerator, we're really kind of low on that favorite mixer that you like. And by the way, that trip you're thinking about in 3 months to the Bahamas, I have found a special deal because I went to that 3 hotels there and offered up a bidding process. And so now you're booked at this fly fishing lodge that you went to 3 years ago because I told them we favored you. And I'm going, love you, Alexa, thank you so much. Right? I didn't do a thing, but my life got so much easier. All right, now let's get into your world. What's going to happen? You're going to have robots out there that are going to be mining your websites and mining what people say about you, and even offering up a chance for you to make money by a customer you've never met before. See where I'm headed? I don't need to keep going. It's going to be this way. It's already this way in a lot of other categories. And yours is so complicated that it's not going to protect you. You're going to be shopped by robots, and they're going to suggest prices based on what they think you've paid in the past and what they think that their boss is really going to like. And then you're going to decide, is this marginal revenue exceeds marginal costs? Probably. Do I want to get my foot in the door? Probably. Do I want to feel like I'm working and selling into Walmart every day? No. I did that for years. It's very painful. But I tell you, this is where I think we're headed. And so this is what it means for you as marketing guys in B2B, that you guys are going to start now gravitating towards the future of a push strategy. Everybody in this room knows push and pull, but you're going to be getting your AI platforms to carry and promote your services and products. So the people that bring you Alexa, they're going to also, because it's Google and Amazon, they're going to make money at it. They're going to have Alexa go to places and shop places that are higher up on the list. And so you're going to be able to pay to get your place higher up as these robots shop. So you're going to start gravitating towards a push strategy as you find your B2B sales more and more automated. And there's a price factor. So what's going to happen with Alexa and this whole idea with artificial intelligence making the marketplace becomes more efficient. So companies are going to feel pressure to offer the best deal and accept that proposal that she's going to present to you based on the predictability that they just are going to figure out. it's going to be ugly. It's going to be different. I didn't want to bum you out before lunch, but it's just much, much more complicated. And the amount of information that's out there is just phenomenal if you have artificial intelligence that can mine it and then develop those patterns of predictability. And so it's coming to your category. So what can you do now? There are a couple of things. One is increase your investment in active content. You got to be picked up by these robots. You are right now in people's searches, so you're trying to have more. And I would say you can't stop. But you also want to have content that really, really is attractive to those search engines. And what we're seeing more and more is really videos, short videos are really becoming preferred by Google searches. Lean into this. These are some sources of how to do great sort of podcasts and the way to make them happen. But I want you just to start thinking about video and podcasts more and more and more, that's going to get, there's a bias now built into Google search to try to come up with these. So I think in the future, they're going to really dominate written content, if you will. The second thing you got to do to survive this new world is to evolve to much more away from commodity services and products to really highly customized. So you're going to have to move up the food chain for some protection, if you will, from this proliferation of AI and robots. All right, number 4, B2B marketing is going to shift towards a new trust building model. What is fundamental in selling? Getting that trust, you know, having the other people that you're selling to from the top of the house to the bottom to say, I like John, I really trust him. He'll stand behind his product. He really cares more about the relationship than this one sale. You know, that's just the core of who we are. That's the best of business-to-business marketing. Well, I want you to think about what you've learned about millennials, right? And that collective self. And this idea that they trust anonymous posts and reviews and recommendations, the crowd rules. It's no longer, oh, I read about this food critic that says this is a good restaurant. No, it's, well, whatever it is. I mean, they go and they just look up all those rating services. This restaurant's got 5,000 likes or thumbs up. So this is going to happen. The wisdom of many is better than the thoughts of the few. Well, there's much to question out there. And there's few people to trust. And I made fun of the media because there is no such thing as kind of unbiased news. It's just ubiquitous channels with opinions. So who can you really trust? Who can you really trust? And so you saw these charts before, but trust in people and institutions is just at a historic low. Look, the military is the group we trust the most. So it's so different back in the 60s. But they're up there, right, with small business. But then go down here to big business. It's horrible, right? It's horrible. So we're not at the top of the list. Most of you guys work for fairly large-sized companies. So at people, even people is falling on this longitudinal study by EPOS. And then trust in government is falling. Private sector is falling. 18% of buyers across all industries consider their sales rep to be a trusted source. 18%. What's the flip side? 82% don't trust the reps. So, wow, trust is fleeting. It's okay, because there's an emerging new model that we got to think about. It used to be that you'd have this trust for the individual and the institutional expertise. You had this old trust model that was vertical. I trust John. He's really performed. The new model is distributed trust, right? The new model is sort of the crowd rules. I can trust this group because so many other people do. The crowd can't be wrong. It's got to be right. And so their examples are everywhere. Think about eBay and Amazon and TripAdvisor. It's being rated from both sides. The seller and the buyer are rated. You know, it's the same thing with Uber. Uber rates the people they gave a ride to. So everybody knows kind of the past performance. And there's nothing like data for predictability. So I want you to think about all of this model and how it works. And now it's being brought to business. So there's a group in Kenya. Kenya doesn't have a really robust business infrastructure that can rate everybody in terms of their economic well-being. So if you go get a mortgage, for instance, they don't have all these rating services as sophisticated as Equifax and such. They have them, but they're just not as developed. And people there, it's just a little poor record keeping, if you will. But a lot of people there have Facebook, right? And they have LinkedIn. And so this group has figured out how to mine personal online networks and assign you a trust score based on who you hang out with, based on who's on your social network platform, based on who's in pictures that you know you've identified who those people are. And so based on it, they give you a score, then they take this data and they actually will then use it to a bank who wants to get a mortgage, buys the data to go, well, John's a good bet. His trust score is a 9 out of 10. Or somebody else, their trust score assigned by a computer, mining other people's websites, will give you a 3 or 4. And the bank goes, no, I don't think I want to do that. The exact same thing's happening in Spain with this company, and they actually sell their information to even real estate companies. When you go apply for an apartment, and they got to say, well, you got to put down a down payment, and they look at your trust score based on your social media accounts and other people that get connected to you and mine that, boy, this guy, John, hangs out with all these CEOs in Richmond, and doesn't seem like, you know, he's spending a lot of time in these great places. You know, he seems like a good bet. Nothing to do with my financial well-being. So these guys, the apartment owner will say, you know what, John, I don't think you need to pay that first month down payment. Just come on in here. Versus somebody else who might have a low trust score and you got to pay 3 months. Really worried about your ability to be a good tenant. So for you guys, actively address all the reviews that people have for you. And I wouldn't try to fake it in this world that we have to be transparent. I would actually, you need to have somebody at your company answering it with the attitude of, we're trying our best. If we let you down, we're sorry. How can we make it up? But don't let a review just sit out there. And then grow all your connections. You're going to have these robots, artificial intelligence. They're going to be saying, well, this firm, I think, has 10,000 people following it, and they're mostly good people. And so we're going to give them a higher score on how much you can trust them versus another firm where they might only have 500 people following them. And it's a big problem in my company because up until now, I just always said, I just don't really want to have a huge social presence. But now I've just said, okay, we got to do it. This is the world where we're headed. And then cultivate and grow your base of advocates. Just like having that placemat, and this is their story, you're going to have more and more people talking about it. So one of the things I think is a great stunt is everybody here, how many of y'all have a pet, a dog or a cat, right? Most of us, we love dogs and cats. It's a huge industry. But just being able to say, you know, this week, we're going to all talk about our own pets and how much we love them. And maybe even have like bring your pet to work one morning. I don't know. But if you do that, and all of a sudden, all over the Facebook and all over their social media, if you're talking about the animals of your company, you will be shocked at how many people like it. You'll be shocked at how many more people want to follow you. Just that one little stunt. You got to keep thinking that way all the time. Number 5, B2B marketing intelligence insight systems are going to become more and more focused and automated. And again, it's also because of technology. But I'm going to give you a little insight in terms of how we work with big companies. In market intelligence, you know, I've heard so many different names for this, you know, market research or insights or whatever. So I'm just talking about the insight business, right? And this is how I define it, that it really, you want a system that provides a comprehensive view of the entire business environment and provides insights that drive results. Better intelligence, better result. If you're not driving your business, it's just, I mean, you're just being hopelessly curious. You got to like be focused on the business. So a kind of a marketing intelligence system kind of looks like this in general from a generic standpoint. You know, you really want to improve your products and services. You really want to understand your segments and the nuances of them and come up with target profiles. You want to develop messaging in your brand. You want to really understand stakeholder sentiment and which direction it's going. You want to understand your competitors, existing and emerging. You want to make sure you have your KPIs established and you're really tracking that, and you want to identify trends. And then you want to also set up where we headed next. So you want your intelligence system to support blue ocean thinking and brainstorming. So this is just like soap gets you clean, kind of a classic model. But here's how to be thoughtful about it. this is going to be a robust conversation at lunch, because is it the chicken or the egg? And what I will tell you, it's get as much as you can out of the dollars you want to invest in market intelligence. So the 5 factors for success and the systems that we set up are these: that there's an institutional bias for data-driven decision-making, that is your culture. And it usually needs to be reinforced by senior management, that they are saying, yes, put that poster up that shows that insight and what it did for us. Merchandise the success of our insights. Have the guys that are in charge of the insights group up on stage with your arm around them. Really elevate that. And you do need to have one person responsible or a team, but you want everybody to contribute. Once you establish say the 50 trends, there are 10 major ones, but there are 40 others that you think can impact your business and they're organized for these categories, you want everyone in your company to feel like they can help and that they can send in the articles or things they see about those trends. And then there's an infrastructure for disseminating it. You can't look at an insights group and just say, yeah, it all lies there. You're some like big-headed insights factory, and you keep it for yourself and just trickle out 1 or 2 things. You got to get the culture built around this. So you need to have this system in place where we're going to send out stuff, or we're going to have a day in the cafeteria where we're going to share stuff. And you really want to get the culture going behind this. And then the last thing is you want a system that's easy to understand and it's easy to run. And so this idea about easy to run is you can't boil the ocean. And so you got to have practical people doing this, and you got to have a direction. And here's where you can debate me on this. You can say, yeah, but you might miss something. All right, I love to fish. Y'all got that this morning, right? So there are 2 ways to fish. One way is you wake up on Saturday and you go, hey, I got my fishing rod, I got my boat, I'm going to go out in the bay and I'm going to go fishing. And you go out there and you just say, I think fish are over there, I think they're over here, and you throw out your line. No, don't catch a lot of fish that way. What you do is you say, hey, I'm going to be in the weekend right out near the bay, and I want to go fishing. So what are the tides doing? What fish are breeding right now? What fish, and what do they like to eat? Those fish that are breeding, or they're in this movement, moving from one body of water to another. And then based on what they like to eat, I got to get that baked. And then what time do they like to eat? Well, I can tell you it's pretty much early in the morning and late in the afternoon. So you got to get all that straight. Then you go there and you catch fish. It just happens. So when you talk to the people that you know that love to fish, if they're not telling you the same story, they're not really fishermen. You got to fish where the fish are. That's how you catch fish. So this is the way that we try to think about this thing. We like to create a map, albeit is a rough map, but informed by people that run the business, of the entire business environment. I mean, literally on a whiteboard, map this out, and then formulate and test the hypothesis of all those variables that really influence it. And then use the system, build a system around the understanding of the environment to really continue to challenge those hypotheses and to build an intelligence knowledge base on each one of those major levers, points of levers, and then review the model with all internal stakeholders and go and get your vendors that you need or the sentiment analysis contracts that you need to structure it around your view of the business. I'm not saying you just are a slave to it and you never change it. In fact, that's what you should be doing. You should be trying to change it. You should be, but you got to start somewhere. And when you just say, hey, I want to do all these things and hire all these vendors and build this massive system, then you just get lost. So get a focus. So this is, I can't share with you some, the client stuff that we do in this. It's just too detailed and too proprietary. But this whole old idea of where are we now? What's our current state? And where do we want to be as a business, that desired state? And then what are those internal factors that we really can leverage? And then what are the external factors? And once you have a model like this built, and you really have it populated, and each one of these can have a number of insights that we can attach to it already from a lot of the work that's gone on, but then where are missing holes and what else do we have to do? And then organize your research around that. So highly customize your system to help reach your desired state. What do we need to be doing in all of these? So it might not have 8 bubbles, it might have 5, it might have 25, but it's just a way to start thinking in a real sensible, practical way about what your insights look like, your insight system. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, and I'm excited about lunch.
Thank you, Ralph. Kick off some question and answer panel. I'm going to bring on all the chairs. Yeah,
We're going to take about half an hour because they're still setting up lunch for us anyway. Oh, Grant's going to rearrange the first.
Mark for the last stuff. Let her know I had come up, I don't know how many, I think I've met all of you. I'm Ralph Oliva. I'm a director of the Institute for the Study of Business Markets. What I'd like to do is ask you, I mean, this was an incredible morning. I'd like for us to begin this to get some energy going. Me, the epic win here is to get questions from you, okay? And we've, I think it's fair game to look at both of John's presentations, but to focus on this last one, to dwell into what Mike was doing. But Liam, you look here. One of the rare, I decided to come in here. I was going to bring some old style tools. And you can look at my hair. And I guess I'm a PMS guy.
Do you have Alexa?
Pam, do I have Alexa? No, I'm afraid of Alexa. Now, what I want to do is, I don't want to be a victim of Alexa. As a marketer, I want Alexa on my side. The problem is I don't know whose side Alexa is on. Right. And in fact, there's a third party involved with Alexa you're alluding to, and that's who I think Alexa is on. Alexa is saying, all this data I'm generating on you, I can sell that data as ammunition to both sides. All right? I can sell it to your purchasing agents to have them beat you bloody. I can sell it to you so that you can create a less perfect market. You can get inside your customer's mind and say, no, it ain't just a chemical. Look what we got. We know what your real issue is. This whole business scares me a little bit, because the other thing that scares me about Alexa in this context, is it an enemy? Is it a friend? Does it supply ammunition to both sides? Is what happens when it gets hacked? Okay, what happens if someone pernicious decides they're going to get into this wonderful data-rich world? Pardon? Pardon?
I'm going to take it back to the inside.
Yeah, well, all right. So, I mean, you asked the question, I'm giving you an answer. All right, so listen, I have the collected works of Liam Fahey here, for those of you who want to go through. Liam has produced a lot in the insight discipline. What's amazing to me about this book is not only the insights that are in it, it's actually very readable. Liam has done a really hell of a job on this. How many of you have this book? Go get it, buy it, read it, love it, would be my suggestion to you. Okay, but by the way, that's part of a series coming from the American Marketing Association, addressing the 5 big problems marketing must solve as they identify them. The first one was finding new sources of organic growth. So there's a new book out on this too by one of our ISBM fellows, Bernie Jaworski and Bob Lurie, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Eastman Chemical. And I also have Sandy Japp's book here, another ISBM fellow partnering with a friend of me, on managing business relationships. And we see the nature of relationships going through some change. So I'm sorry to blast on Alexa, but it worries me. It really does worry me. So questions, comments, observations. What I'm sure you've got something. And of course, this has happened to me many times. I'm hosting the highly coveted right before lunch. So, yeah, Mike.
Your experience, really good place to start talking about changing the culture, right?
Yeah.
And our culture is something that I've just learned recently. The culture is very averse to change.
Yeah.
We have to fight change. So in that kind of environment, where do you start?
Well, that usually comes from the top, in terms of that embracing change and change management. And then once you get the leaders to do it, the rest of the organization usually has just been so conditioned that it's kind of in a rut as well. So you got to look at change as a process. And I think that it's best if there is a case for the change, and that you can articulate that and then share that with the organization.
So our example is the main customer. So we can back to that work. How do you hold the machine, right?
Yeah.
What we're finding is our industry is changing. That our customers used to go to our distributors. Now they go directly to the internet.
Yeah.
In
Right.
most cases, they're making decisions before they even talk about it.
That's right. So, you know, and if you're internally having some resistance to that new model, you just have to show it. You know, we work with a company called Green Heck, and they make fans and sell fans all across America. And they are going through a similar situation. I mean, this is very common, I think. And they have done a lot of research to really help their distributors understand this change and to help their distributors evolve to more of these sort of technical support people and less just the sales people. And so, but it took some research to actually share with this uncaptured sales force that they have, to really share with them what's going on. And to actually say, we're not going to disintermediate you. You've helped us to get here, but you've got to change, and here's the business case why. And so we're going to put together a university to help you go through this change. So it's a lot of hand-holding, but it's making the business case, and it's bringing people along. It's just really tough, especially when companies need to be democracies, for the leadership to stand up and go, wrong forest, over here, let's go. It's just too much. So you got to be thoughtful.
Liam, I want to, before we move further, would you like to put some context or other comments together on the whole business of this topic, insights and trends that are transforming the nature of the business? You've been widely cited here. So.
Actually, I want to connect it to Mike's question. If you stand back and think about how do companies compete against each other, ponder that question for a moment. Typically, we think in terms of performance metrics. They're the easy ones. Second level we typically look at is how do we attract, win, and retain customers. And that's where sort of strategy comes in. But below that is the whole question that John finished with, actually, which is how do we build create better intelligence and insight. That's really where the competition is between firms nowadays. But if you walk into an organization, I've got on many occasions that I say, who's in charge of creating insight around here? You get wonderfully vacant faces looking at you. Which gives away the story, because I want to connect it back to Mike's question. If you really are interested in creating change in and around an organization, go back to John's presentation this morning. Who are likely to be your big change agents? It's not typically people at the top. It's people in the middle and the bottom of the organization. And a golden rule in creating change, culture change, never use the word culture. It's off-putting for everybody. So look at where are the pockets within the organization where you can create change around building better intelligence and insight and work it back up. And you see that most clearly to me in political systems and social systems, where people at the ground level are taking change into their hands and forcing people up along to respond.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Mike? Anything in terms of creating a culture? You actually pulled off a big part of a move in that direction.
I think it goes back to something John said in the last presentation, just trust. Trust is so important. It's in our business. I mean, I think Harvard Business Review said, trust has three new, add credibility, reliability, and intimacy. And you divide that, but you can lose all of that if you don't have that. You divide by self-centeredness. So if you're self-centered, it's all about me, maybe. But the top line, credibility is, you should have some swagger. You should know what you're doing. Reliability is the do-say ratio, which is if you say something, you're going to do it, you do it. And you keep that ratio high. And then the intimacy is, if I share this information with you, are you going to abuse it in some way? And if you're in the intelligence business, any intelligence business, government or at the corporate level, you know, if you can't be trusted with information, you can't do your job.
Okay, other questions?
I was curious, John, when you talked about the mandate to move to sort of technical support, do you think that will also spawn new revenue streams? Consulting, technical field support?
Absolutely.
It can do both.
Can do both. Yeah.
Other questions? Yes.
Just a comment that there was a tool called Radiant 6, and it was a web scraper. And companies like Dell were using it to look at
Salesforce.
communications about their products and whether they were positive or negative and whether they were increasing. And when they became specific enough comments, they would direct those, the Radiant 6 tool would direct those to the engineers in their company to fix the problem.
That's right.
That tool was, Radiant 6 was bought by Salesforce in 2011. So John's future is already partially here.
Other thoughts on this? Let me toss one at you here, because I had written down a list of questions to try to do good homework for Lynn, and they're all gone now. One of the things that concerns me is you know, the step to quantum computing and how soon that comes true, combining AI with quantum computing. Our technology is moving at the speed of our science and imagination. But I've worked with quite a few millennials and Gen Z, and unfortunately, I think we're all moving at the speed of evolution. I don't sense that all of us, all of a sudden, that the new Gen Z folks I was teaching, all of a sudden have greater computing capacity. They have a different relationship with technology, but they're still human beings, and their capacity as human beings is hopefully constantly getting better. When will we hit a wall here? That's my question. Are we going to hit a wall? What do you think?
How long do we have? You know, I get to spend a lot of my time with, I'm on a board of a school I went to and my kids went to. It's an independent private school in Richmond. So I'm really kind of close to where kids are and hearing the problems that any school has, but my kids are grown, but now I'm kind of back in the kid business. And it's amazing how much psychological issues there are, and how much depression there is, and how much doubting and lack of confidence kids have. And it's really shocking, and I think it's in part because they've had access to information via computers that it's just not meant for where they are in their brain development. And it's, you know, it is so hard for me at 60 to keep up with everybody that wants to have a relationship with me socially, just in a platonic way, you know, with people that, hey, can we go out to dinner? And it's like, God, I just can't keep track of all this. Well, just imagine if I were 10 years old and everybody's getting liked and somebody's talking about this party and that, and, you know, and so how does a 10-year-old keep track of 50 relationships online at one time? It's going to make anybody feel inferior. They don't have the confidence to know that they shouldn't be asked to be doing this. And then they might push the wrong button, or maybe they were looking for it, and then they stumble on some bad websites. And they see stuff that they shouldn't see until they're 19 or 29. And so that, or forever. And so that is really screwing up our kids. And so there's some bigger question about responsibility on this. But I think that your question's really astute in that we don't have the wiring when we're young, and I don't think in the future when the computers get smarter than us and we reach that point where they're fixing themselves and getting even smarter to keep up. So it is going to be a day of reckoning, not a day, but a really hot topic that we're all going to be talking about as we go. I think the End of Men article, when you read that, you're going to realize that I think one of the big things that have happened to our young men, and while only 38% are graduating from college, the freshman class is 50-50, but by the time we get to the end, it's women graduating much more than men, is the video games. All the guys go home and play video games. And that's going to be like the tobacco suits that have big settlements. They're going to be coming after video games because they're smoking guns inside that know we're creating these things to be addictive. So all of this is just wrapped up into this question you asked. Do we have the mental capacity and capability to keep up and not get run over by it? And I don't think we do. So my answer is watch Total Recall and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
I don't know. To me, that's an interesting thing. So with all this advancement, we still have trouble getting a PowerPoint slide to come up. Yeah, you want to add?
Let me take a totally different perspective, John. If you follow the evolution of the human brain from early days up to now, it's been incredible how the human brain has adapted. It's been absolutely incredible. If you think about the functioning of the human brain and how emotions are built in, hardwired into the human brain, the capacity of the human brain to observe, assimilate, and react is mind-blowing. If you build that then in with the question of time, look at very different time factors: social change, political change, cultural change. Pay close attention to how those different timelines are having effects currently, prospectively, way into the future. You've got to be very cognizant of how those timelines interact in the short run, medium run, long run. So when I read a lot of stuff about how technology is going to overwhelm us, put me into the doubting column, doubting Thomas column. Because we humans have this tremendous capacity to make judgments about what's good for us, what's not good for us. And my concern is with millennials in particular, is how, where, and when do they learn to test us.
So I want to agree with you. That would be the scenario I want to sign on for. But I don't get this. So in China, they have moved to a system where every freaking thing you do is being watched. Everything. And if you throw a stick of gum, spit a stick of gum out, you get points against you and you pay a higher mortgage rate. It's just, I mean, it is Big Brother to the extreme. And a bunch of people have bought in and said, this is good. This is going to be a better regulator of our society. And they've given up their personal rights. And I'm like, going, that is not the America I studied or the America I believe in. But I mean, maybe that's going to keep order better. I don't know.
But think about the social system that's behind that.
Yeah.
My last trip to China, walking down the street with 8 or 10 Chinese people who were late millennials, customers. They started jumping up and down with excitement. And I was obviously left out of this cause of excitement. So I asked them, what gives here? We can see the sky. They hadn't seen the sky for 10 days. Now think about that in the context of social change. So now we're happy seeing in China, getting very, very concerned about this thing called pollution. We seem to be going in the other direction.
Right. Well, so I'm going to take it another place. Kelly, you had a question, and then other questions here.
Well, I think one, in hearing kind of everything from this morning, one place my mind continues to go to is in the B2B world, it's a bit unique in that a huge challenge within marketing is connecting the procurement function that's oftentimes making a decision to the value that maybe you're bringing in other parts of the organization and maybe the values of a company. And so when you think about all of the changes that we talked about today, I'm just wondering what that means in terms of that unique, disconnect that we sometimes have. So I think, I forget which one, mentioned earlier about, this, I want to have technical support when I need it. Like I'm driving somewhere and I need to have this question answered. And so let's say you set up your company to be able to do that, right? Well, at the end of the day, how do you connect that to the procurement decision? Because frankly, that procurement person doesn't give a crap about the fact that you answered and created a solution for somebody who's driving on their way to a meeting and needed an answer and you helped him out. And I'm just wondering how we connect the dots a little bit better on that. Because it's really great information, but I'm having trouble connecting that to the world that we live in terms of it's not one human being making a decision,
No.
right?
So, I mean, and the way we do it is with primary research and mapping who are the decision makers and then where are they, and those sort of questions. And what do they need? And what kind of buying criteria do they have? Do they say, you always get free bids, or no, they really will go with a preferred vendor? And so mapping all that out and filling in that information will help you in that evolutionary track, really profiling those 5 or 6 people that influence the decision. It's not usually just one.
You know, Kelly, that Jim Anderson is another fellow who's talked about this, and he calls those kinds of fast services gray money. It really is valuable. Okay, how do you but the purchasing agent just wants to look at green money.
Right.
Well, typically it's very tough to make that transition if you can't track the critical events. They happen, you know, when someone's driving, when someone needs it. But one of the promises maybe of this technology is you'll be better able to track those events, convert that gray money to green money. So let's just say you called on the way to a meeting. What would have happened if we weren't there? What would have happened? How long would it have taken you to get that answer? What would it have cost you? And now Jim is always an advocate of track those critical events, but they're you got to be at the right place at the right time. But maybe the technology can help us. We have another question back here.
Reading sometimes about the trend in the reduction in MBA applications, right? And kind of brings the data points together that I think you said earlier, being rewarded maybe for like ability and capability versus education.
Yeah.
Then we just talked about video games, right? And like, is there value in learning how to do all that at such a young age? How do you see those types of data points kind of changing what you would offer as an MBA program, or what employers are looking for when they're, you know, just typically marketing role, you're like, hey, we need an MBA, and I need this.
Yeah.
Is that changing?
Well, I think it is. The whole educational system is shifting at various speeds, but I think that our K through 12 is shifting away from, SOLs and the standards of learning, and trying to treat everybody as you're a 5th grader, you're a 6th grader, and really starting to adopt these new models, the National Academies, the Ford Foundation, it's called P-Tech schools. And what those are, they're very all similar, but what they are is they teach you 3 pillars, and they have business involved in the schools. They teach you reading, writing, arithmetic, cores. They teach you home economics, like what's a mortgage, and why do you need, what's a resume, and what does an employer want? How do you manage life? And then the 3rd skill is teamed up with an employer on, how do you learn coding so you can come help us build jet engines, and we're a company that will pay you $60,000 when you graduate from high school if you're on this track. And so we're seeing that happen, and then more and more apprenticeships be put in place where kids can go do that. And even companies like SAP, a software company, will pay for you to come out of high school, and they'll put you through college while you're employed right after high school if you're going through one of these programs. So I see Gen Zs and their parents becoming more and more aligned in the future with this idea that not everybody goes to college, and that you really can make a very wonderful living if you get focused a little bit earlier in 7th grade, 8th grade, and you have these systems set up that can pull you through that. So I think that we're going to find that's going to be a really big competition against the 4-year institution, and then even some of those graduate degrees. And it's just going to, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I see all the signs that we're moving in that direction.
I see people losing patience with like you're talking about Harvard's HBR articles, right? They're wrong.
Yeah.
And they're hard to read. You have to really focus.
Yeah.
Versus kids today are used to like set it right there. You can do it. Buttons, and they're seeing what they're guiding themselves through the content.
And the kind of stuff that like a medical student today, what they have to learn in 5 years or 6 years, the whole industry changes. In a year, more information comes out. It's just impossible. It's impossible to keep up like that.
And
Just a quick
go ahead.
mention MBA programs. Presentation in Boston recently, I made a point that I thought the Harvard Business School had done a wonderful job of condensing a 9-month program down into 2 years. I mean, I have to think about that for a moment. On a broader scale, since I've spent my life in and around the MBA program, I walked out of universities 20 years ago. An MBA program is currently delivered is essentially an 18th century model that's trying to address 21st century issues. Just so I put my bias clearly on the table. And that's a real problem.
Well, I think it comes down to return on investment too. I think you're starting to price themselves out of the market and you're not seeing a return very quickly. Pretty smart. And there are great role models out there that don't have, college education are doing quite well. So I think all of that is combined to kind of devalue the MBA programs.
Well, and I think, it's part of a university with a big MBA, well, not a big, but an active MBA program. It is top drawer, something everyone is considering. I mean, I was a little late getting here yesterday because I was in a meeting where the dean was addressing this issue. How are they addressing the issue? Some of what they're trying to do, just acknowledging this, is to slice and dice it. There are a set of kind of timeless things that try to focus out that are sort of essential parts of business. Will they enable you to give you frameworks to deal with new to the world stuff as it comes at you? So let's stop trying to teach the latest thing today, because if we teach that to you, by the time you graduate, it's going to be boring old school. But what are some frameworks that will endure and enable you to deal with new to the world stuff? And the other thing is when, how do we do it? One of the program that took off like mad at Penn State is something called an MOL program. They created a very tightly packaged version of the first year of the MBA program, especially for graduating STEM students. So you graduate with a bachelor's in electrical engineering, chemistry, et cetera, and you have the option to tag on another few months, and you come away with the quintessential, here's how business works. Now, you're not learning the latest thing to do with Twitter, and you're learning about here how the pieces of a business work, here how you as a scientist or an engineer fit in. It'll make you a more valuable employee and enable you to see better decisions for yourself moving forward. So they're reacting, but reacting pretty slowly.
With everything that was presented today, and you make the case that we're awash in information, we still only have 24 hours in a day. We're now awash in insight where we're flooded with it and we have to sort through it. Everyone has access to the same tools, and it's leveling the playing field entirely with technology and other things. What's the role of brand? Does it still matter? Does it not matter? Will it matter?
Good question.
Let me back into that a little bit. If you're going to have intelligent conversation around insight, there's a number of requirements, one of which is the following. Every senior executive should be able to stand there and in 2 minutes deliver the business model of the enterprise. I found very few people who are heads of law departments, HR, accounting, risk management, I go through the whole list, have the capacity to articulate the business model of the enterprise. And if all of those cannot do that, to Kelly's question a moment ago, you can't really have intelligent conversation about the external environment, the internal environment, and the question of brands. You just can't have it. So the brand is the articulation of what the enterprise is about to the external marketplace. Remembering that brand, as my buddy Ralph here has pointed out many times to me, is owned and possessed by people outside the firm. If that's not clearly understood across the entire organization, then you're not going to have any intelligent conversation about the role of brands. You just can't.
And I think brands, we don't like to admit it, but most of our decisions are emotional. And we're moving towards all this rational data in a time when trust is fleeting. So I think there's a real role for brands in building that trust that you can say, gosh, I'm just as confused as a consumer or as a purchaser of business services. And I can at least take some comfort emotionally. And well, I kind of understand these guys from an emotional level and trust them. So I think it will continue to be a differentiator if executed correctly. I think it's going to have a role. Otherwise, it's going to be a really boring world.
Well, and I think you know how I feel about it, Max. But just remember that if companies don't own brands, customers really don't own brands individually anymore. Brands are starting to be owned by the crowd.
Yeah.
What is the relationship? Gary Lillian had done a lot of research showing when people are confronted with too many choices, they tend to make bad choices. And now, you know, the average B2B buy, at least last research I saw, involves between 6 and 7 people. All of them now have a flood of information. Right? And one of the articles I read came up with a great term, open-ended learning loops. Let's postpone this decision until we go learn more. And what a lot of firms wind up doing is retreating to the brands they know. My own feeling is they're going to be a way to navigate this ever complicated space. All right, we have time for one more question. I'm a little over here, so Ralph, that'll be you, okay?
I just wanted to also I think we all agree about the complicated world. Probably many more choices add those 4 things up. I think the answer to that question is just how we manage and maintain those brands is very different. I did have a question though about data. And bring us back to something more than data. One of the most interesting things I found last year with the American Marketing Association, what they called it the first ever, they called it publication of the 7 big problems.
7 big problems. Yeah, I think I said 5.
I can't remember what they called it. It was like their first ever effort to go out and put an opinion in the world of AMA about what they call important. And the one that I talked to Liam about this, the one that's in my mind that resonated with me was the idea that we're not getting closer to insights, but further away from insights despite all the data. And the metaphor is essentially that instead of having a data lake, remember the data was the big promise. It's like endless insights from all of us. Instead of having a data lake, most people have a data swamp. That rings true to me when I think about the data. And the AMA picked up on this, and they felt, their point of view was we're having a hard time getting insights. Data and everything before. To me, I really felt like that. My question is, I know it's not a easy question, but for all the marketers in the room, what have you observed about effective use of data? I think we all want to accelerate our insight practice. But how do we use data as our disposal? By the way, it's more than we can wrap our heads around. What ideas or techniques do you have about effective use of data? That supposedly great on partly, I don't need to be looking just look at all
let me talk about something I'm going to be doing this Monday. I think that's your question. This is a fairly high-end market research / consultancy firm, which has a large number of data analysts who now become data scientists. I'm not sure what the next level is that I'm working on.
Yeah, you'll need to probably talk a little louder.
We have a whole bunch of data scientists
Thank you.
that are generating all kinds of findings, quote unquote. The concern of the firm is that the narratives they're creating for their clients are not any more insightful than they were before they had the data science. Just interesting observation, number one. And number two was the question, how do we get from the data analyst outputs to something that is a smaller set of insights that will have much higher value to their clients? So in essence, what we're going to do is set up on one side of the table the data scientists and their outputs. The other side of the room is a couple of us from an insight perspective. And we're going to ask the question, how do we build a connection between us? How would that connection look like methodologically? How would that connection look like in terms of the outputs? I have no idea where that is going, but that's the challenge we've taken on.
And that really is what I was trying to point out in that graphic about focus. What is your business model and what are the right questions to ask? I get so many people hiring us and asking us to solve for something with a really poor research objective. And I always have to push back and go, is that really the right question? How does that come into play with your business model? And then they have a hard time describing that. And so that's why you've got to really try to build that box that you're really trying to solve for and focus there. And I think that gets you somewhere.
So I'm time now to continue the discussion over lunch. Great challenge, interesting opportunities. It's up to us. We're the business-to-business marketers who are navigating from where we are to this future. Let's thank the thought leaders who are giving us some. I'll turn it back over to Lynn.
Ask you, gentlemen, if you could shoot the